Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here this morning with everyone. I just want to say how wonderful it is to be here in Palm Springs with this beautiful family. And thank you all for coming out on this balmy Palm Springs morning. You know, even weather is all a state of mind, so to speak. You know, if we're in one place and we're thinking, oh, it's so hot, but let's say we go to Hawaii and yeah, it's hot, but you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm in Hawaii. Well, for me, it's hot, but you know what? I'm in Palm Springs. It's wonderful. Good morning, and welcome. And I want to say good morning to our audience through the Facebook and through the internet. How wonderful it is that we can share our lives on such a deep level. The creativity that has taken place in the last few decades that allows us to be in touch with another part of the world in an instant is so amazing. If we think that in the 1900s it took months for people to make it to the United States from Europe, let's say, in a boat, or vice versa. Isn't it amazing how quickly we can make our trips right now? What amazing creators we are. We're speaking about creation today. Did you notice? Yes. Being creative can lead to awakening is the title of today's talk. And in looking at the title and in looking at being creative, we thought, okay, what is it that we're creating in our lives? I just want to read something here that is actually from Science of Mind, because we're going to be taking responsibility for our creation today. Here and now, we are surrounded by and immersed in an infinite good. How much of this infinite good is ours? Everybody?
All of it.
All of it. How much of it may we have to use? As much of it as we can embody. Ernest Holmes. As much of it as we can embody. How much of the universal good are we embodying? What are we embodying? And when we're speaking of embodying, what does that actually mean? Well, this right here, our bodies, they are a container. They're a container. And what do they contain? What are they a container for? They are a container for our soul, our spirit, our divine essence. Is our body filled fully and completely with our divine essence? With the divine light of creation? The divine light, the light of creation. What other creations are being embodied in our physical body, in this container, in this temple? Think about it. Does it house pain? Does it house diseasement? Does it house frustrations and overwhelms and stresses? What does this body house? And how can we change that? How can we change that? If we are the creators, if we can create, how are we using our creative powers? How are we using our creativity? Do I stay in the frustrations? Do I stay in the challenges of life and the obligations of life, or when I get to the point of where I can't really do any more right now, do I walk away from it? Do I take some time just for me? Do I take some time just for me? Do I do something that is creation for me, whatever that may be, that causes me pleasure, that causes me joy and happiness? Many years ago, when I was taking a spiritual course with someone, because having been born aware and awake into this lifetime, and living in a world that does not express the inner knowings that I have, communicating with the Ascended Master since I was 3.5 years old, I didn't have a lot of people to talk to. So when I came to the United States at the age of 11, I had to kind of shut down some of those aspects of my abilities to really, really hear and to hear people's thoughts. Because I came into a city that had so many people, approximately 650,000, which compared to LA is really tiny. But I came from a village of about 250 people. That was huge. It was a huge influx of emotions and of thoughts flying in from other people, to the point where I wasn't sure what was me and what was them. So some of these filters came up. Then years later, I moved to California, came here, and I began to meet people who at least remotely thought the way that I did. I began to become involved with spiritual communities as compared to religious communities. And please understand, religious communities are wonderful. They bring people together. They allow people to share. They allow people to have an expression. But sometimes religious communities can also become very stringent and have very strong confines. Growing up Catholic, because I am from Poland, spirituality, and see, everybody thinks it's wonderful, okay, that Jesus walked the planet, and that he is, quote unquote, the Christ in Catholicism and in Christianity. It's a wonderful thing. But for me to say, oh yeah, he's one of my teachers, we walk and talk, that would not have been accepted. There's a difference. There's a difference between believing in something and believing something. If I believe in, I'm actually separating myself. If I believe it and know it within, that's a different story. That's truly who we are. And you see, our guides and teachers are always with us. And all we have to do is say, hey, talk to me, walk with me, help me out here. And they will. But if I don't ask, they don't do. Why? Because they're not really allowed to interfere. They can't interfere in our lives. So we have to step out there and ask. We have to ask, that's all. But now when we ask, we actually need to allow the message to come through. Creativity and meditation kind of go hand in hand. But have you ever become in a place where life has just been too much, too many thought forms? You know, I was saying how all of these thought forms were coming through. They're coming through everyone. Half the thoughts you think aren't yours. Half the emotions you have aren't yours. The charge that your emotions have, most of that isn't yours. Why? Because we create these energetic morphic fields that resonate at a certain vibration. And if I am in that place in me, and you are in that place in you, and if I am in my place of anger, and you are in your place of anger, and so are 3 billion people on the planet, hey, guess what? That anger gets multiplied. But if I am in a place of peace and calmness, and 3 billion people are in a place of peace and calmness, guess what? That peace and calmness gets multiplied. So it's about self-observation, and creating the life that we want comes from self-observation. This is how we awaken consciousness. This is how we awaken consciousness. We awaken consciousness by being self-observant. Now, why is creativity such a big part of it? Because if the world is just overwhelming me, and I can step away from the world and immerse myself in something else, whatever it may be. Am I writing? Am I just taking... This is where my creativity of art actually allowed me to become much more centered. I was taking a spiritual unfoldment class. It was wonderful to be around other people who were thinking like me, and to help to dissolve the veils that had to go up in order to kind of separate the thought forms from the outside to maintain the integrity of who I am as a divine light being. So here, I'm in this spiritual development class, and the person says to me, the teacher, Cheryl, I don't remember her last name right now. She says, well, to all of us, to the whole class, she said, for next week, I would like you to bring a picture, a drawing of your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental body. And I went, I don't know how to draw. I don't know art. Because to me, art meant that I did something that looked like exactly something. If I'm looking at a flower, I need to recreate that flower. If I'm looking at a person, I need to recreate that person. Right? And then, in that place, I was speaking with a friend, and she said, she was going to art school forever, and she said, oh, all you need to do is just put some crayons or whatever out, take some paper, close your eyes, take one, and just draw the first line. And okay, I can do that. And I drew my physical body, my emotional body, and my spiritual and my mental body. And my spiritual body awakened and unfolded. And from there, anyone who's been to my home knows there's lots of art hanging up. And it's all the art that I did. Because I just started doing art. And when things get to be too much, that's what I do. That's my creativity. That's my awakening. That's when I am really present, right then and there, without thinking, without attempting to figure out what's going to be happening in the future, who needs this, who needs that. In that moment, I can release, and I can release all of my emotions into that artwork, and all of my passions into that artwork. And yes, we can even put our sadnesses and our angers, whatever. I can release that way. That's me. I can do that. How can you do it? Try. Just taking a blank piece of paper and drawing the first line and see what comes. But other ways of creativity, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's making a wonderful meal, that's creativity too. That's creation. Allowing yourself to be present in the moment. How often Are we making a meal for ourselves that we are going to put into this physical body temple? But we're thinking about the upsets that we have, and we're eating our meal with the upsets. What are we eating? What are we ingesting? What are we putting into our body? Are we putting in the love and the nurturing and the nourishment? That's what we need to be doing. It's about self-observation. It's about being in the moment, in the present. And it's being creative right here and right now. We are the creation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word, in the beginning, was the verb. It's the action word that creates. In the beginning was the verb, and the verb created. Out of the verb arose the universe. Out of the verb arose you and I. Out of the verb, everything creates. Be mindful of your verb, so that which you create within your being. How do you speak to your body? Are you kind? How do you speak to someone else's body? Are you kind? Kindness, compassion. When we come from that place within us, we send that out into the world. It starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with the one. We can create immense change in the world, and not only awaken our consciousness, but awaken the consciousness upon the planet. The woman who usually stands on this stage, Dr. Sharon Stroud, just left Oslo, where she sits on the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, and she just went to Switzerland to meet with representatives of the United Nations, the Deputy Director and the Vice President of the United Nations European sector. She was just one person. She was just one little girl born onto this planet. And she is creating change on the planet, impacting change on the planet. How can we impact change on the planet? We don't have to get in the plane and travel all over, though how wonderful it is if we do and we can and impact that way. But just by centering ourselves, knowing that we are the creative force, staying within this place of creation of our own being, taking in that divine light that we can shine out to others so that they can reflect it back to us. And then we reflect it back to them and they say, oh, that's me too. That's how we awaken consciousness. One person at a time. You and I are the change. You and I. In awakening our own consciousness, in speaking our verb to the universe and to the planet and to the Mother Earth who sustains us, of love and compassion and nurturing, we create the creation upon the planet of the world that we desire to live in, of love and joy and peace and harmony for everyone. I love you all. Namaste.